going on YouTube? Back for another live stream. What's happening? Yeah, what a day. What a day. Bit of a slow news day maybe. Few things happened across the day. Still haven't seen any change with the management. Well, yeah, good, bad, I'm not sure. Obviously some still some talks about certain managers coming in and making a bit of a change, so I'm not sure what to think. Obviously Ollie's still on holiday. Odd that he's put his players on a holiday. What's going on? A week's holiday during the international break. That's just strange. What's happening? What's happening? You know, is that something that Man United players should be doing? Any Premier League player, any professional player should be doing, taking an extended week off during an international break, regardless whether you're playing well, which we're not, or playing poorly. Obviously we're playing terrible at the minute. So should those players be taking an extended break? Is it a test? Is Ollie putting them to a test and going, right, here's a week off. Let's see if some of you come into training regardless. Let's take a note of the ones that are taking training, going to training and still training regardless of me saying, take a week off. Is he going to make a note of those attitudes? Probably not, but you can be optimistic, can't you, and assume that that's part of his plan. I think his plan's probably gone out the window, and it's gone out the window long ago. I think checking, listening to a couple of other streams earlier on, and I think they were right, really, in terms of this is the perfect opportunity now to make a change. If you get rid of Ollie now, which do I agree or disagree with? I don't necessarily agree or want to see him get the sack or be pushed out the door. I'd like to see it be done under kind of a bit of a mutual thing. And I think Rio was saying yesterday, which is coming under a bit of criticism from other pundits. I think Gary wasn't in agreement with him really, but he said it in the nicest possible way in terms of it's time to hand over the baton, and he's right. That's exactly what Ollie should be doing now. Just looking at it and going, do you know what? I've taken this. There has been some progress. We have turned a bit of a corner from the Mourinho era. Some of these players have matured. Players like Greenwood. Okay, Martial maybe had a little bit of a dip in form last season, but season prior to that, it was unbelievable, and he showed a little bit of prior to this season that he can get back to a bit of form. Pogba was getting somewhere near a bit of form. Obviously, bringing Bruno in, and obviously additional players to the squad. So for me, it's just a case of where he has turned a bit of a corner. And I think he can look back at that and go, I've done myself proud, but he's got to the stage now where I think he honestly needs to look at that and go, I can't take this any further than I've taken it. I mean, the pressure in a job like that, there's pressure in any Premier League job. I mean, we've seen, managers get sacked. Norwich manager get sacked recently. Was it yesterday or the day before, whatever it was? Obviously, Newcastle have made a change. Villa have sacked Dean Smith. Crazy, obviously Spurs have sacked their manager. I think they were saying today on the radio that there's been something like 25% of managers already gone in the first 11 games of the season. So there's been some big changes, and for Ollie, to be fair, to still not be one of them is well, fortunate for him if he looks at it that way. But I think he's got to look at himself and go, right, okay, I've done what I can do now. Really have some thinking time across this week or two if he does get 2 weeks to have a think about it during his holiday. And I think he probably needs to give the club a little bit less than that and go, by the end of this week, by Friday, I think he needs to, if it's not a decision's not been made for him, personally, I think the best thing for him would be to make his own decision and say, look, I've done what I can do with this club. I don't want to leave you in the lurch. And I think that's the problem at the minute that we're facing, is that there's no managers that I think fit the the board system. Unfortunately, none of them are yes men, but successful managers aren't going to be yes men, and that's what the board have got to start realising, that if they want to bring somebody in who's going to be successful, they're going to ruffle things up and change things that you're perhaps not particularly happy with. So, yeah, there's a little bit of that. I think in terms of who could come in. I mean, I'm not. This is why I'm a little bit on the fence with it, really, because I'm not entirely convinced that that's going to change us instantly. I know everyone keeps sort of comparing us to the Chelsea sort of model, but I don't feel. I really don't feel like Chelsea were the players were the problem. I feel like the system was a problem. You could see that. I think everybody could see that. The players weren't necessarily the problem. He brought in some new faces into a group. He threw them all into a team, and they had some young ones in there as well. And expected it to work. We've got a similar dynamic, I suppose. New faces in there, some older ones, and some very new and young ones. And it's not working. But there's a problem with attitude. You know, the difference with the Chelsea players across from young and old. There doesn't seem to be that same sort of problem, and that's why Tuchel's been able to pull that all together in the way that he's been working. So I don't know. For me, I'm not that convinced that. And I think the concerning thing about the last couple of games, and Nolly in particular, is that I don't think we are all convinced as fans that that's suddenly going to turn us around. That we're suddenly then going to just start performing and start winning games. I mean, we've got some pretty winnable games coming up beyond into December. I think obviously there's still some tough ones coming up over the next 3 or 4, 5 games. Got to beat Watford. I think that'll give us a boost of confidence if we do that. And then obviously there's Chelsea, Arsenal, which are huge games. And then we get into some easier periods, really, with like Brighton, Newcastle, Brentford, some teams like that, where then you've got to start looking at really building a bit of momentum and some confidence and start getting some wins under your belt. So things could turn around. Maybe they're looking at it that way, but is it come too late? Personally, I think it has. I think it's come far too late. I think he needs to, the decision essentially needs to be taken out of his hands now, and I think a new manager needs to be appointed. I think giving him any more sort of time with this is just not the right move. And yeah, it's just a bit of a worry that we're now going into Wednesday of an international break off the back of some really poor defeats against biggest rivals, and there's not been a decision made, and you just want some answers. I think if the board came out, or somebody senior in the club came out and explained the situation to the fans, it'd be a little easier to stomach. The lack of explanation is sort of giving everyone a little bit of a head scratch and a bit of an headache in terms of understanding why there doesn't seem to be any direction or any care about being hammered about by significant rivals and being sat now, what are we, 7th in the league, with Arsenal looming, West Ham performing unbelievably. No doubt, I'm sure Spurs will turn a bit of a corner with Conte there. So it's just concerning, really, in that regard, that we're not even looking above anymore. We're looking around and below, rather than looking at the top 4. But yeah, a bit of a worry. Some other major news. I mean, the holiday thing is just crackers. I think genuinely, I think it's absurd to be giving these sort of level of players, the fitness, the money they're on, the caliber they're at, to be giving. And there's quite some significant players who haven't been selected or have decided to not go. Obviously Rashford's not gone. Looking like it's maybe a slight personal issue with, obviously, congratulations to him for the award that he received again today from Prince William. Hats off to him. But obviously he said he's not fit. Is it was it fitness? Was it the fact that he was getting this award? You know, I think he's probably carrying a slight knock and an injury, and he's still not 100%. So he's still around. You know, Jadon Sancho hasn't gone. Lindelof, I don't think's gone. Some other, you know, big players still knocking around, and some fringe players in that team that have still got a lot to give. And let's be honest, could still be playing, I'm sure, some friendlies or something behind the scenes just to gain a bit of confidence. It's especially just training. So yeah, I don't agree with it. I don't agree that we should be having an international break at this time. They should be getting holidays. It's just madness. Maybe it's happened before and I've just not read about it, but I think it's insane, especially considering the current sort of state of form that we're in. So yeah, that's that really. I mean, the other one, obviously the big one today was the Pogba injury, which to me came at no surprise at all. This has happened before. Happened with his ankle, was it? His ankle. Then next minute you see him in Pepsi adverts, or doing Pepsi adverts, or doing some other adverts for Adidas. Saw a convenient clip randomly. Somebody was filming what seemed to be like lads in a park. At the end of a France training session, or a start of one, or in between one, where they were kicking a ball into an open net. You know, like stuff like amateurs do when they've got a few balls knocking around, and he's gone and he's tried to thrash one and he's missed it. Looked like he jolted his knee, whether he's pulled his quad or his hamstring, or he's actually, you know, twinged something in his knee from sort of swiping at the ball and not going through the ball and end up sort of hitting a bit of air. God knows, but it's not come as a surprise really. He doesn't want to be at the club. I'd take him still at the club. I still think he's got a massive part to play. It's just whether Pogba turns up. Can we afford Pogba to decide when he wants to turn up? I don't think so. You know, in that sense, I think in terms of ability and technique, you know, he's head and shoulders above most of them in that team. But is that the be all and end all of being a footballer and being a footballer at Man United? No. You know, O'Shea got into the team, Park G got into the team, Wes Brown got into the team. You know, there's a lot of players you could name who got into that team. Fletcher, who were hard-working midfielders who had half the ability of Pogba. Who you'd if you could rewind the clock now and put him into that team now, you'd take him in a heartbeat over him. So no, not particularly good news. Is it necessarily sort of a bit of bad news? I don't know. I think he just needs to make a decision. He needs another one. There seems to be a lot of players, a lot of people in this team and this club at the minute who are incapable of making decisions, and it's just infuriating, really. You know, it's a big club. It should be run by people who are confident in making decisions pretty quickly and business decisions. If someone like Pogba doesn't want to know, then he needs to be. He needs to be told. You know, he needs to be told. He needs to be told. Look, if you don't want to be around the club, you don't want to be. You'd rather, you know, play somewhere else. Then we'll put you up for transfer and we'll let you go. Or announce it. It's just this kind of sheltering from media attention all the time. But the guy's creating his own stories. I mean, maybe he is genuinely injured, but it's just not come as a surprise, has it? Really, to be quite honest, you know, he's been out, didn't get into the team, came into the Liverpool game, but a rash, stupid tackling, got sent off, been suspended, and then didn't feature in the Atalanta game. Or didn't do very well. Sorry, did feature in the Atalanta game, but didn't play really well. Didn't look like he wanted to be in that game. There was a massive game, and you know, he's a player that can make a difference. He did it last season on several occasions where he made the difference, and that's a frustrating thing. You know, I think he's quite happy for other people to do the legwork and become an addition to that already good outfit. You know, he'd suit PSG where, you know, he's got 1,000 quality players around him, and he'd rather just sit in there and pass to Messi or Neymar, while he just sits back and, you know, does his TikTok videos or whatever he's doing or his adverts. Sad. It's sad. I think it's sad as United players because we want him to do well because he has been a system of a product of the academy, and it just hasn't worked out, and it's gone on for too long. He's another one where I think it's an era of bad, ill behaviour, really, in terms of people knocking around the club and players who just don't want to be there and don't want to show fight and willing constantly, and it's just not good enough. So, yeah, that's again, as I say, that's not come really as much of a surprise to anybody, or at least not to me. Are we prepared? I've put down here, just doing a few notes, and are we prepared for a new manager if it does happen this week that Ollie gets the boot this week? If it tomorrow morning it's announced that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been sacked, are we prepared? I think the simple answer is no. We're not prepared. A lot of fans wanted Conte. I mean, jury's out a little bit on it for me, but I think, yeah, he obviously would have been an amazing difference to what Ollie was bringing to the table, and perhaps it would have been interesting to see how he would have reacted to that. Did the club feel that he was a little too similar to Mourinho? That dark cloud that Mourinho eventually brought over the club was hung too low and too long for a good portion of the time that he was at the club, and would Conte bring a similar sort of attitude? No, I don't think so. I think he's got a particular work ethic which is similar to Mourinho. I think he speaks his mind probably a little bit like Mourinho does. Probably not so much in the public eye like Mourinho does. I think he would speak his mind more directly, face to face to players and out of the media. And I think that's when Mourinho lets himself down, where he's quite happy to, berate his own players in front of the journalists and media and press conferences, and I think that's the way it lets him down. That's when he loses the dressing room, and it's hard to rekindle it. It's not very clever, to be quite honest, and it's far from the ideal thing. And I think Conte doesn't do that. I think he's there similar to Tuchel, really. I suppose they've got a particular strong work ethic, happy to speak their mind to players, whether it be in training or in matches, and make decisions and change it around. And I don't think he'd be shy of that, really. I mean, yeah, is he a bit more methodical? Probably. I think the thing is now we could do with strengthening up and being a little bit more defensive and dealing with that. I think we've conceded far too many goals recently. I mean, the stat I saw today about losses at Old Trafford and Ollie's reign as manager, is like 21% of his time losses. 21% of all losses at home have been with Ollie in charge. So that's just a crazy stat. Of all the losses at Old Trafford, 21% of them have been whilst Ollie's been in charge. That's just mad. That stat in itself deserves a change, especially with that squad. I mean, you go back to sort of like 2015, 2016, 2017, 18. Last 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, that squad wasn't as good as this squad is now, or it was last year. It's mad that we're suffering such poor form and poor results. It's just not on. So that in itself needs to change. And yeah, I mean, would you accept that you'd lose to Liverpool? Maybe not in the manner that we did, but lose to Liverpool, lose to Man City, but still fight against the rest of the clubs in the league? I think everybody would accept that. Those two clubs have been at a level that, not a lot of clubs have achieved. Only United and maybe Arsenal, 20 years ago, have sort of hit, and they're at that threshold now that we're not meeting anymore, at least not at the minute. And would it be a shame that we would get beat? I've got to accept that we get beat by those teams. I think it won't be a thing to confess that you would expect us to be beat by those teams, but to put an effort in, which we didn't show against either of those two teams at home on both occasions recently, was the most damning thing about it. You know, fighting to the end and trying to win and trying to create was should always be a staple of what this club's about, and that's just not what's happened recently, and that's been the most upsetting thing to watch, really. But that squad, you know, it does need experience. It does need a, like more cohesion. It needs bonding. It is a good squad. That my fear at the minute is that we do lack. Well, I've said this for ages. I think our right hand side has been such a weak spot for us for such a long time, and I'll say it again. It was a couple of videos ago. I know the quality of some of my older ones just started getting the quality up really on these streams and stuff. But I made a bit of a assessment of the going into the Man City game, and I said the right hand side for us over the years has been a staple of what Man United have been about. At least as far back as like your Beckham, your overlapping partnership with Neville, moved on to Ronaldo, with lots of different players. I'd like Rafa, Fabio, that we used to switch around. Valencia came in, did the same job. It's worked for 15, 20 years where that right hand side is such a knock really since Ronaldo left. Valencia did a fantastic job sort of like filling it, and he did, and we bounced on from it. And it was basics from what Valencia was doing, from what the difference to what Ronaldo does. It was back to basics. It was just getting down that line, strength, pace, no flashy skills, and just getting that ball in that box every single time. That's all it needs, and that's all we're asking for now. Just getting back to some level of basics. We're not asking for little interchanging passes, little flicks over people's heads, like people floating around like Pep's teams do in midfield, where everybody's moving around in the final third from left wing to midfield to right wing to back to. No one's asking for that. All we want is a sense of structure and to see some passages of play, and it's just not happening. I think it just needs a basic level of structure to it, some basic understanding of what players are doing. And Wan-Bissaka's took a bit of criticism recently, which I think is so unfair in regards to him as a player. I think he's been fantastic, and I've said this before many a time, even last season. For this regard, but this is no knock as him as a player. He's doing his job. His job is a fantastic right back in terms of his defensive capabilities. Going forward, he's awful, but that's not. He knows that. You can see in his game. He knows that. He knows that when he gets that ball, he's tentative. He doesn't want to go forward because he knows if he does, he's running back. He doesn't feel comfortable on the ball in that final third, and you can sense it. You look at good fullbacks, and I'm going to look at Every, and you look at like your Nevilles and stuff like that, opposite sides of the pitch, and Every was a left back, but they wanted to get forward. Like as soon as that left mid got it, that right mid got it, or they were like bombing on. They were like, it was an opportunity for them to go forward and influence the play. And Man City are doing that now. It's classic fullback play. It allows you to have like 4 threats in that final third if your fullbacks are able to control that play on either side, because your strikers and then your midfielders are getting involved. It's just been shit, and he's took a bit of unfair criticism as Wan-Bissaka. It's not. I don't think it's been particularly fair. People coming in and saying he's not up to scratch. We need a new right back. Do we need a new right back? Do we need to play something that operates wingers instead of having these like wing forwards, or having this narrow midfield where then Wan-Bissaka's got all this space to have to cover, both going forward and coming back? Is that unfair for Wan-Bissaka that he's not even able to build himself into the game, to build himself forward where he's got a midfield to work off to gradually get him foot up the pitch? Is that not unfair? To expect a defender of his capabilities against some of the, let's be honest, it's a competitive league, regardless of whether you're playing City or Liverpool. If you're playing, Watford next week, it'll be the same under pressure type football that we'll be facing. not next week, but 20th of November, so couple of weeks time. But he's got to gradually build forward. Same with Shaw. Shaw's so off form, it's untrue. But how well did he play when Martial was there with him and Rashford was there? He had this kind of link-up play. He was able to get forward and get forward, and that's why he found his form leading up to the Euros last season. He was incredible because he had a link-up play. He had someone to feed off, and he likes that interchangeable play in that final third. That stopped happening when suddenly then we went to this narrow formation and Rashford got injured and Martial didn't get a game. It's not working. Sancho's showing a little bit of character with him when he's been pushed on the left, which he shouldn't be. He should be pushed on the right. Get Sancho on the right with Wan-Bissaka. Next minute, them two have built up a relationship and start playing some football. It's shit. And that leads me on to this kind of final bit of news, I suppose, that's come through today about Sancho being a right wing back, which I just had to shake my head at, really. I just thought the lad's barely been played in the position that he was bought for, which is right mid, a position that we're screaming out for in this football team, right mid, where it's been our strongest area of the pitch, the most potent area of Man United's attacking force has been that right midfield. He came in, 21-year-old wonder kid from Borussia Dortmund for 70, 80 million, playing left mid. And then not only do we do that, then we criticise him for playing left mid out of position where he wants to be on the right, crossing the ball in and affecting the ball on the side that he's used to, because we somehow think that he's going to cut inside and shoot from 30 yards every time. It's ridiculous. Get him on the right mid side, build up a relationship with the full back, start crossing in balls to Ronaldo, and let's get him where he's most potent. Let's start playing like to the basics. It's daft. Let's play your Rashfords and your Martials on the left. Let's play with Ronaldo and Greenwood up front. It's almost 4-4-2, and it's like, I can't believe I'm saying that, but it is. But that's just the way that, looking at the team, it suits United to have players, wingers, central midfielders and two strikers. It's worked for us in the past, and I'm sure it'll work for us again. And the thing is, with that formation, what you can do is interchange it. You tactically interchange it during the game. We get into the final third. It doesn't have to be a 4-4-2 all of a sudden. Then you suddenly have players floating around. You can play Bruno up front with Ronaldo, and then but Bruno tucks into central midfield. He tucks into sort of an attacking midfield role. But then when we go forward, he springs in with Ronaldo. It can work. You've got to change it, and I think a manager will bring that freshness to it. But Sancho, right wing back. So no, you can't play right wing or right wing forward or whatever it is down the right in an attacking sense where you're used to Sancho. You're 21, unbelievable wonder kid. You got X amount of goals and assists last season from Borussia Dortmund. Did well in the Champions League. You know what we're going to do? Right wing back. We're going to play right wing back. Essentially, what happened to Ashley Young but the difference being that Ashley Young was 10, 11 years down the line in his career. Fantastic when Ashley Young was ripping it up at Villa in his youthful days. He came to United and he had a couple of good seasons, but then towards the back of it, got pushed to right wing back. I can't believe it. I mean, it's a criminal act of football if you start pushing a 70, 80 million wonder kid who's proven himself in Germany to right wing back. It's just nuts, absolutely nuts to think that that kid's going to have the legs, defensive legs up and down that wing to both impact the team going forward and then have the defensive capabilities to come back and track back. It's just nuts, mad. He's not Reece James. Reece James is a different type of player. He's not going to affect the game like that, like Reece James is. It just ain't going to work. I think he's as Tuchel's plodded like Hudson-Odoi in a similar sort of position. Yeah, but for different ways and different means. Is he looking at it like how Chelsea do, where they play Aspilicueta on the right side of a 3, and then play like a Hudson-Odoi or a Reece James on the right? Yeah, but Reece James can actually defend as well. Like, that's not Sancho's game. I don't know. That's mad. That's mad to me. But yeah. Anyway, that wraps it up. I just kind of wanted to do a quick half an hour talking about a few things there. Obviously, Pogba's injury, Ollie deciding for us all to take a 2-week break. You know, it'd be nice if he let the fans take a 2-week break and not have to think about it for the next fortnight about what's going to happen. So, but obviously we can't do that. Yeah, and then the Sancho thing, which is just weird. And let's just hope that things change before that ever comes into fruition. Because if that ever was to happen, I think we'll all have no air left, or at least it'll all be grey. So let's hope that Sancho never ever sees right wing back until he's about 35, and by that time, hopefully, he's then scored about 100 goals and set up the same amount for United in a red shirt. So yeah, interesting. I think there's more to come this week. Yeah, let's see how England get on. I'm not going to mention that on this though. But yeah, thank you if you've watched. Thank you if you do watch after I've finished streaming. If you have watched and you do like what I'm doing, or if you've got any comments about what I should do, I'm going to try and do some features, get some friends on to do some sort of debates and chat to some people. So I'm going to try and do that further down the line. So if there is anything you think we should add, then please comment anyway. Hopefully positive comments, and subscribe if you like it, and share, and then like, please, if you can. Other than that, have a good night. Hopefully things go well for the rest of the week as United fans, and yeah, take it easy. Cheers.